We're here at WWDC 2018 and Apple did not announce a single hardware product. Instead, they announced like 8,000 different software features. So let's take a closer look at all the things that are going to happen to your Apple software in the coming year. Let's start with iOS 12 because there's a lot going on in this package. For one, we're looking at better performance almost across the board. If you've got a device running iOS 11 right now, it's going to be able to run iOS 12 when it launches in the fall. And if you've got a device like the iPhone 6, which is an older device, apps will launch about 40% faster, which is a big, big improvement. We're also looking at massive improvements to Apple's augmented reality ambitions. For one, we now have social experiences. There's a game inside that allows you to sort of hurl balls and knock down each other's structures with multiple people playing at a time. There are 3 or 4 people playing this game at once, which is actually really quite cool. We saw something similar at Google I/O, and it speaks to the value of shared augmented reality experiences. I mean, building something in the virtual world that's also part of the real world by yourself is cool, but doing it with somebody else is bound to be a lot more fun, right? Speaking of augmented reality, we also have a new Measure app, which honestly sounds just like a Project Tango app that I played with years ago. Basically, you point your phone at an object, tap a couple spots, and it'll give you a fairly accurate representation of the lengths and widths involved. It sounds really cool. We haven't gotten a chance to play with it here at WWDC, but hopefully the wait won't be too long. Now we're getting to the big stuff like shortcuts. Basically, you're able to string together multiple app actions into a single macro, essentially, and launch them with a command phrase that you give to Siri. So if I tell Siri that I'm going home, it might start up NPR in my car and fiddle with my lights back in my house. I know this is going to be important to a lot of you. There are also new Emoji. There's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, there's a tiger, there's a koala, and there's you. There's your face. You're the emoji now. They're called Memoji, and the process of creating one is actually pretty in-depth. There are much more options available to you than if you're doing something like an AR emoji on the Galaxy S9. There are a lot of options for your skin color. You can give yourself freckles, you can give yourself accessories and haircuts, and actually even tweak the attributes of those accessories. So if you don't like the way one set of sunglasses looks, well, hey, there are lots of other options for you too. I can't wait to play with this thing. It reminds me a lot of building Miis in the Nintendo Wii days. And yeah, it's not available here, but I cannot wait to start building my own. One of the big trends we've seen out of the major tech companies this year is a bigger sense of focus on your digital well-being, and Apple has done that with some new tools for iOS 12. For one, you can view reports to see how often you and your children have accessed applications and spent time in them. You can also set Do Not Disturb while sleeping, which basically does exactly what the name says. You won't wake up to a massive notifications in the middle of the night. You can just sort of get on with your sleep as you normally would. Lastly, there is the ability to set limits to your application. So if you're like me and you're on Instagram way too often, you can tell iOS, no, don't let me use this for more than 10 minutes at a time. At this point, no one's really sure how well or quickly anyone's gonna take to these tools, but the tools exist, and I'm glad for that at least. And then there are these smaller but still very important things. So notifications are now grouped by app, so you don't have to sift through thousands of iMessage notifications. You can dismiss them all with a single swipe. You can now also add up to 32 people to a FaceTime conversation. And while that's very cool, if you ever invite me to one, I will kill you. That was a lot, but that was just iOS. Let's turn to macOS, which is called macOS Mojave, and it'll ship later this year. It has a dark mode, which is really, really nice. I'm not just talking about turning your status bar at the top of the screen dark. That's been a thing for a while. Edge to edge, we're looking at a much darker interface, which is great, as Apple points out, when you're actually writing code. I should also point out that your desktop will change depending on the time of day. There's a beautiful sand dune in the stock wallpaper, and as the day progresses, it'll go from being very brightly lit to almost blue in the middle of the night. A bunch of new apps are coming to macOS, like News and Stocks, but I have to tell you, they're not your typical Mac apps. They're built with largely the same foundation as the News and Stock apps for iOS. Apple isn't planning to merge iOS and macOS specifically, but it is trying to make it easier for developers to create one app that works well for both. There's a lot of other things too, but the one thing I was most taken by was the updated Mac App Store experience. The Mac App Store has been around for years now, but it's never gotten the same kind of attention as the iOS App Store, but it's bigger, it's cleaner, it's easier to navigate, and there's a lot of the editorial stuff that you'll find there that you might have seen in the mobile version as well, which is actually quite cool when you're trying to find something new to download. That was pretty quick, and you know what else is going to be quick? watchOS 5. It's coming later this year, and it does bring some really neat stuff with it, like the ability to just start talking to the watch. You don't have to do a Hey Siri anymore, it'll just start accepting your commands. Also new to the mix is automatic workout detection, which is a feature that we've seen in a lot of other wearables so far. Basically, if you go for a run or if you embark on one of the newly supported fitness modes like hiking and yoga, the watch will figure out what you're doing and start tracking your workout more specifically, even if you haven't pressed the button yourself. Same goes for stopping. When you're done, just stop. The watch will figure it out and cut off that workout and feed that data back into your Apple Health profile. You'll also find richer, more interactive notifications from Siri, a walkie-talkie mode that lets you send and receive messages to your friends, and a podcast streaming mode, which shouldn't be a big deal, but it is, because it's finally here. Rounding out the package is TVOS, which got all of like 8 seconds of stage time last year. This year, it's been bumped up to like 4 minutes, mostly because it now supports Dolby Atmos, giving you really immersive surround sound from just an Apple TV and a soundbar. While it might not be a game changer, I'm also super excited about zero sign-on. Basically, as long as you're connected to the wireless network provided to you by your own cable provider, all of the subsequent subscriptions and logins happen automatically, which is a really nice touch. Really, the big thing that stuck out about the software announcements here at WWDC is that Apple didn't feel the need to flood us with massive changes, and instead gave us a slew of thoughtful incremental ones that seem to work out very well and have our best interests at heart. It's weird to say that about a massive company, but it kind of feels true. You'll be able to play with all of this software when it launches in the fall, but if you're a developer, you can download it and install beta versions right now. So if you don't mind sacrificing a machine on the worst case, let us know how it goes.